So, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban came out in 2004. Now, this is the first one that I actually saw in theaters. I'd obviously seen the first two at home on DVD, but this is the first one that I actually saw in theaters. I had now become invested in the series, and I gotta say, just initial thoughts, this is my second favorite Harry Potter of the film of the entire series, like just slightly below Deathly Hallows Part 2. I love this movie. It's just about as flawless as you can get of a film for me. It is being directed by Alfonso Cuarón, who did Y Tu Mamá También in 2006. He also did A Little Princess in 1995. Also did Gravity. I think that was 2013, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't actually see that film yet, but I heard it was incredible. But Alfonso Cuarón is a phenomenal filmmaker, at least for me. And my only, really quick, just to stray off here for a second, I only wish that they would have got him back for at least one more Harry Potter film, which I think they tried to do, but never ended up happening. But that being said, I thought he just did an incredible job of, again, expanding upon the series and fleshing out our main characters as much as could be possible, from what the book was entailing. Because there's a lot, again, that's going to be cut out from the books, and we're not going to go over everything that got cut out or even some things that got cut out. But I will say a lot of the stuff that they did decide to include, I thought was very well done. And I thought that Alfonso Cuarón just really made a really good, grisly, dark, suspenseful film. And I thought this movie did a really good job taking our main characters into darker, deeper places that are going to make it tough for their journey ahead. So
no, I gotta agree. After watching this movie again, I think it is one of my favorite Harry Potter movies for sure. This movie book is a lot darker than the previous two stories, even though there's a lot of death going on in the second movie. But this one just has an overall darker feel to it, and I thought this movie did a really good job of making everything flow and not feel too rushed, even though there were certain scenes where they have to like tell you a lot in a little bit of time. The last act of the movie that has to deal with time travel, I thought is really interesting and cool, just seeing how everything went down, and the movie did a good job of of basically playing out this entire scene.
Yeah, no, for sure. And we're going to talk about the story now, too. I got to say, again, this is one of my favorite stories, just of all the... Again, I stopped reading the books after the second one. I know. Shame on me. He tells me every day. Anyways, but just moving on to this, I do know the main plot points. If you will, I kind of did the... what's it called? The Blue Notes or the...
Cliff Notes or whatever.
There you go,
yeah.
The Cliff Notes. So I do know the main things that were kept in the book, and... I gotta say, this is one of my favorite stories, just from that perspective of what they did decide to keep in the film. And I gotta say again, Steve Kloves just did a really masterful job. Not only, like you said, balancing out the plot and just also the twists and a lot of the other things that were going on throughout the film. Just again, really expanding upon this world and making us go into deeper, darker places. And I just found myself even more invested watching it again. I gotta say too, going into the story now, we got Harry now is in his third year, as well as Hermione and Ron. We find out now that a prisoner named Sirius Black, a prisoner of Azkaban, has done the impossible and he's escaped. And now also we find out later in the film, without going to, we're going to spoil a little bit. We assume you've seen the film by now. But basically we find out that Sirius Black betrayed Harry's parents and sold him out to Voldemort. And he's also Harry's godfather. So now the stakes are even more personal and they're a lot higher. So I love this story, and it's a really good, solid story in the Harry Potter series.
So we obviously have Harry, Ron, Hermione back, but I thought they had some more good, as in with every Harry Potter movie, they have a lot more good additions. Remus Lupin, I thought, was a really good character in this movie. I forget the actor's name who plays him.
Lewis?
Sure, what you said. But I think he plays a great Lupin, and that's a big part of this whole movie is Lupin's interaction with Harry, teaching him how to make a Patronus, just helping him, telling him about his dad and his parents, because he was good friends with them when he was at Hogwarts. He was really good in this movie. Snape is back. Obviously, has a lot more scenes in this movie than he had in the last movie. He's definitely a standout. And then Gary Oldman as Sirius Black was perfect choice. He played a really good Sirius Black because he was super crazy in the beginning and pretty much all the time, but then at the end he gets super personable with Harry, so it's great to see that.
No, you nailed it on the head. What Gary Oldman does so well, and again, if you don't know the story coming into this into the film, he does such a good job of portraying Sirius as such an evil, menacing villain. And then obviously, what happens later in the film, and he, like you said, he gets more personable with Harry, and those scenes are some of my favorite standout scenes, the interactions between Harry and Sirius. And I mean, again, Daniel Radcliffe and Gary Oldman, they just all nailed their scenes together. They're just so fantastic when they work together. I also gotta say too, you nailed as well Lupin. I love all the scenes where he's trying to teach Harry about being about rather conjuring up the Patronus, and about giving him happy memories, and then talking about his father, and how fleshing more of that backstory of that. And again, also too, we'll get into the music in a second, but John Williams' music that was playing in a lot of those Lupin scenes with that beautiful like flute music is just. It's just really, it makes you more emotionally invested in these characters. Just little things like that, and those little interactions with the beautiful music behind. We also got to talk about, of course, Michael Gambon is now the new Dumbledore after the unfortunate passing of Richard Harris. And look, this is, I know that the unpopular opinion is what I'm going to say. I really like Michael Gambon a lot as Dumbledore. Not as much as Richard Harris, but I did really like him a lot. And look, there's a lot of pressure following Richard Harris. That's like, I mean, that's not an easy task. That's like, I'm not gonna...
replacing such an iconic character.
Yeah, exactly.
Or being the new one is like, it's always hard.
Yeah, so
he did a really good job.
Yeah, no, definitely, I understand some people. I understand why some people got a little frustrated with a little bit of the Irish that he had. Yeah, well, it didn't bother. No, again, I understand why some people had some gripes with it, and how he was a little more aggressive than Richard Harris's Dumbledore. I get some of the criticisms, but none of them bothered me. And I will say, the very first time I saw this film, I'm not saying I didn't like Michael Gambon, but I will say that it was definitely an adjustment for me after being so invested in Richard Harris's Dumbledore. But I will say, as the series progressed, Michael Gambon just really nailed and did a solid job as Dumbledore. And actually, after rewatching this film, he actually did a really good job in this film as well. Really just from all the pressure coming into being the first film and being the new face of Dumbledore, I thought really well. And that first scene, just where he's talking about how about the darkness and the light, about the Dementors now being in school, I thought he was a really wonderful like introduction to the new Dumbledore. And again, I liked all his interactions and scenes between him and Harry as well. So, and also the scenes between him and Hermione as well, where he's telling her about the time turning. Just, he's a very solid and good Dumbledore for me as well. I liked him a lot. Okay, so unfortunately, this would be the last time John Williams would be doing the score to the Harry Potter series. In the fourth film he didn't do, it was Patrick Doyle. He left. John Williams left for Memoirs of a Geisha that came out in 2005. But coming back to this film, I gotta say, the first two films by John Williams, they're phenomenal. Fantastic, actually. I like this one even better.
This one kind of stood out for me more too, especially in some of the action scenes, some of the music that was playing.
Yeah, and some of the dark tones that he goes with too. The doon 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 doon, like that makes me think of Peter Pettigrew and like that dark past and that dark haunted like evil villain that he is. But just getting back to John Williams, just again creating all those new themes, and he came up with a lot of new music for this one,
he did,
while still keeping a lot of old themes from the first two films. And I gotta say, he made some very amazing choices. And again, that we talked a little earlier in this review when Lupin and Harry are talking about after the Whomping Willows destroyed Harry's broomstick, they're talking about learning how to conjure up the Patronus. That music in the background with the flute, the doo 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 doo. It's just so beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful. I could listen to it all day. I wouldn't even need dialogue or anything. Just listening to that music is so beautiful to listen to. And again, even though I still love the composers we got after the series, Patrick Doyle, Nicholas Hooper, and Alexander Dupont, they're phenomenal as well. And again, the Alexander Dupont one really stands out for me, especially Deathly Hallows Part 2. But this one is really a standout score for me of all the Harry Potter films as well, because I thought John Williams, not only did he, again, like I just said, create those themes from the first two, but I thought he made a lot of wise and also a lot of brave choices, just coming up with a lot of these new themes, like that love flute theme, and then also like those dark, the doon 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 themes. So I thought it was a really solid score.
Yeah, it just kind of bridges the gap and like makes you really feel in that world or in that moment that's going on screen, because it makes you feel that feeling. Basically, you can see something with your eyes, but unless you're feeling it with your heart, I guess the music is really what does that.
Yeah, and I gotta say too, one last bit of music that really stood out for me when Harry's riding Buckbeak and you hear that music, and like you really feel like you're flying with Harry. Just, I mean, from the camera angles alone were incredible and how it was shot, but that music by John Williams just really makes you feel like you're on Buckbeak flying along with Harry. It's just incredible, and my favorite, one of, if not my favorite scores of the entire Harry Potter. It's between this one and Deathly Hallows Part 2.
So the special effects are once again improved from the previous movies. Obviously, CGI is getting better at this point. But overall, I thought this movie looked really good. The Quidditch scene again improved. The overall just spells and the action scenes were improved. All the CGI characters like the werewolf and the
Animagus.
Yeah.
The dog, right?
Yeah. They looked pretty good. But just in general, the special effects were improved.
Oh, for sure. No, and also that scene with the boggart, is that what it's called?
Oh, yeah, when it keeps changing into different things. That was really good.
Not only a very entertaining scene, but just such a well-done and crafted scene.
It was a good scene.
And the way it was visually done, I love the effects in that scene as
and
well.
The way they made the Dementors look, I thought was pretty good, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Menacing.
And also, too, Buckbeak, I thought the way he moved and flew and how he looked, just very convincing for a CGI character. Also, we gotta mention on the night bus, that was
that was a fun scene.
It isn't, but it sets the tone. Even though this is a very dark film, it has some fun elements in it, and that's a very fun scene. Just the way the bus is moving, take it away, Ernie, and then mind your heads, why the long faces? And Stan Shunpike on there, why you fall over, and just all that. I love all that interaction, that the visual effects in that the beginning of that too, and also we gotta mention Mrs. Trunchbull from Matilda, or rather Aunt Marge. I love that scene again, just starting off the film, setting off that tone. The visual and special effects in that scene where she's just getting bigger and bigger, and then the buttons start hitting Dudley.
Yeah, hits him twice. Yeah, it's funny.
that was very entertaining. But again, like you said, they just really did a good job. Just each movie just improving upon the visual and special effects, and I gotta say, just really good, well done in this movie. I gotta say, the sets in this film, really well done again, just expanded upon more in terms of Hogwarts. Also, we get more of an expansion on the clock tower. We didn't really get too much of a view of that in the first two films, and when the gates are closing, when we find out Sirius is in the castle. We also get to see the walk, and again, they did walk to Hagrid's a couple of times, but a lot in the other films, they were kind of already at Hagrid's, I believe. Yeah. In this one, we kind of see the long walk almost like all the way there. So I thought that was interesting, seeing the walk from the school to Hagrid's, and also too when we got to see Hogsmeade.
Yeah,
I thought
that was cool.
I loved all those with the where the doll, the little shrunken head dolls are telling them no underage wizards here. Just there's a lot of neat and cool elements to this wizarding world. So I thought they did a really good job just on sets and just really expanding and getting us more invested in this world. Like especially little things like Hogsmeade and seeing all those like bars and those little things like that. I ate up and loved those scenes.
It's just more of the Harry Potter world to experience.
The humor once again in this film, just really well balanced and really well done, because again, this is a lot darker and more suspenseful of a film than the first two. So I thought they had to even more so, and again, not add a ton of comedy, but just again even balance it more so with some humor in this film. And they did a really good job. I gotta say too, for me, like some of my favorite bits when Ron is having a little bit of a nightmare about spiders, which is a running theme in this series because he's afraid of spiders. He starts like saying, "No, the spiders are making me top dance," and then Harry's like, "You tell those spiders you don't want to tap dance." Yeah, tell them. Just little interactions like that make me more invested in these characters. But again, the humor there, and then Snape, I love his humor and just throughout most of these films. When Ron, he's telling all the class, turn to page 394. And then Ron is like slowly turning. And then he just hits it and then they're like on the page for werewolves. I love little bits like that. And also little bits where they're not trying to make you laugh in terms of from dialogue. Just little things like when they're Harry and Hermione are doing the time turner thing. And Harry's like trying to touch it and then Hermione like slaps his hand away. Just little things like that are really funny and add a lot more humor to the film for me.
Yeah, I think for me, most of the humor was little things like that. It wasn't like jokes or like things that make me crack up. It was just like little things here and there that just kind of keep it lighter into such a darker movie.
Definitely. And also too, I thought this film was more of Draco Malfoy. He's still for sure a bully in this film, but he becomes more of the comic relief a little bit more until the Half-Blood Prince, which obviously in that, when we get into that review, we'll talk about how he becomes a little more of a serious character in that one. Not to say he wasn't serious in these other films, but he's just a little more of the comic relief starting more in this film. So
yeah, the action was good in this movie too. Another cool Quidditch scene. Most of the action is in the third act when they're with like in the forest and there's werewolves involved and there's the Whomping Willow involved. But that whole scene, I just thought that last act of the movie, I just thought is so good. And there's a lot of action in it. And I don't want to talk about it too much just in case you haven't seen the movie, but you should if you haven't. But just overall, the action in the movie was pretty good for basically a non-action movie.
Yeah, definitely. And just adding on, you mentioned the Quidditch scene we got. I really love that Quidditch scene we did get.
In the rain this time.
Yeah, in the rain. Yeah, I thought that was really cool seeing in the rain. I could be wrong. I didn't read the book, but I think there was a lot of Quidditch in Prisoner of Azkaban in the book. So interesting choice how they only kept one match.
They never have more than one Quidditch scene in any of the movies. And the Quidditch World Cup, you see just nothing of. So movies are not much about Quidditch.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I did love the bit too. Again, a little bit of a spoiler where Harry kind of gets the Dementor kind of gets him up in the sky, and then Dumbledore has to come to his rescue with Arresto Momentum. Again, really cool scene right there. So. Yeah.
Yeah, and all the scenes with the Dementors too were cool. Like.
They felt scary and menacing.
Well, yeah,
I know that was
job,
the point.
So,
for sure. But I'm just saying they did a really good job of making you feel like the stakes were higher for Harry, and you felt scared for Harry too whenever the Dementors were on screen. So now we're gonna get to our favorite quotes from the entire film. My favorite quote for me is "Mischief managed, and I solemnly swear that I am up to no good."
Pretty classic.
Yeah, and the reason I like this because it's our first introduction to the Marauders map, which is a map that tells you where everyone is at every at every second of the day. So
in Hogwarts.
But I thought it was a very neat addition. I really like the quote. If you actually watch the end credits of the film, you fast forward to the very end credits, you see everything, all the text is in the Marauder map style, which is very neat. Cool.
Yeah.
It's such a neat choice how they did the.
I gotta mention that too for visual effects. The way that they did the Marauders map was awesome. Really good.
Good call. Absolutely. But if you watch the end credits and how the film ends, it's done really neatly. It's Harry says it's Daniel Radcliffe's voice. Obviously, you don't see him on screen, just his voice. You hear him say "mischief managed," and then all the words just are done. They fade away, and then he says "Nox," and then the lights go off.
Yeah, right after the freeze frame, like in the Matrix.
Just really, really neat way to end a film.
My favorite quote. It's not so much the quote. It's just the delivery, but it's right when Harry and Hermione get back from the Time Turner adventure. Mm-hmm. And they run up to Dumbledore and they're like, "We did it. He's free." And he's just like, "Did what? Good night." Just because Dumbledore gives him that look, and Dumbledore knows everything. I just was that part made me laugh. So memorable for me.
If I didn't pick this quote, that's probably my second favorite quote in the film. I love it. That scene right there. Even though I mentioned Dumbledore's Michael Gambon's first scene is Dumbledore talking about the light and the Dementors and
good
happiness.
Delivery.
That right there really got me even more just invested in him and seeing him as Dumbledore. Just the subtlety and the way he delivered that line, and again, as you said, he knew exactly what was going on. It just shows how smart and brilliant he is. So I love that scene, that quote in that moment. It's so well delivered by Michael Gambon for sure.
Yeah, that's gotta be one of my favorite moments in the whole movie.
Oh yeah,
because it's the culmination, and it just kind of puts a nice little bow on top of it.
Yeah, and also just speaking of favorite moments, I gotta say one other little favorite moment I had in the film is when after Harry does the Expelliarmus spell to Snape. Snape then, understandably so, is very angry with Harry. And then we see that there's a werewolf, and he says, "There you are, Potter." And then he sees that there's a werewolf, and he immediately goes shields out his hands to protect Hermione, Ron, and Harry. And just in that moment, it made me care even deeply. And at the time when I didn't really know the end of the stories and what happens, it just got me more invested into Snape and just seeing really what a protector is. And also it's a major foreshadowing for later down the road for in terms of Snape trying to protect not only Hermione and Ron but especially Harry. So I just thought the way Alan Rickman if you rewatch that scene, just when he shields them with his arms, and his face watch his face, he really feels like that he's trying to protect them and that they're in danger and peril, and he's doing everything in his power to protect them. I just thought it was really well acted by Alan Rickman. Not that everything is not well acted by him, but especially this moment right here. It was a small moment that added so much for me, and when you know the history and the future of what's going to happen in this series with Snape and Harry, it's just an amazing foreshadowing for me personally, and I loved it. It's my favorite moment in the whole film. All right, so final thoughts on this. As I mentioned earlier, this is one of, if not, I think it's my second favorite Harry Potter film. Again, just slightly under Deathly Hallows Part 2. This film just, again, takes us to darker and deeper places. It's very well directed by Alfonso Cuarón. It's shot so magnificently. It's a very suspenseful and dark film. The humor just really balances it out. The pacing is very good. The scene transitioning is very good. The acting is phenomenal. The story is fantastic. The characters are incredible. You're so invested in them. The action is phenomenal, from the Quidditch scenes to the Dementors, from the visual effects. Everything is just really on par. I can't really think of too many things that really bother me in this film. That being said, I'm going to give Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban a 9.8 out of 10.
Yeah, this is definitely Harry Potter universe. Just keep expanding. They keep this book / movies, when they start, expanding more into darker territories. And I thought this movie did a really good job of portraying that, especially the third act in particular. I really loved that whole part. The whole movie is really good, but that one in particular. Mm-hmm. But as you said, great acting, great story, great characters, just great everything. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Alright guys, well that's going to do it for this video. Let us know what you thought about this movie in the comments section. We're going to be doing The Goblet of Fire next, so be on the lookout for that. And if you like these videos, you can hit the subscribe button.
See you guys next time.